Well, ladies and gentlemen, or, well, who are we kidding? Gentlemen. It is the wee hours of Sunday morning and time to show up. I'm showing up. I'm glad you showed up. I appreciate every single one of you. And remember to do the little YouTube dance, like, comment, subscribe, all that happy horse shit. So, as any of you who have watched this channel for any period of time know, I have problems. You're aware of at least one of them. But anyway, whenever I have a problem, there are basically three modes that I operate in. There is the one where I am actively trying to solve the problem, and there is the one where I am trying to figure out the problem, but I don't know how to work on solving it yet, which is, I play a lot of video games during that process. And if you notice me playing a lot of video games through my activity on Discord or just like my comments on social media or whatever, if I'm playing a lot of video games, I'm trying to solve a problem. And then there is the part where I'm not actually working on solving the problem. I've just kind of given up. I'm just going to leave the problem sit for a while until I feel like trying to work on it. And when I do that, well, that's when I watch an absolute arseload of anime and television and movies. So if I've been watching movies and television all week, then you know I've got a problem and I have no idea where to begin working on fixing it. So I just said, fuck it, and started watching a bunch of stuff. I have become a spectator rather than a participant in my own life because the problem is too large for me to tackle. So anyway, the problem that I've been tackling over the course of the past week by playing absolute arseloads of Starfield is the question of, when I paint, I have tremendous difficulty going from large to small. There's this two-part thing where you're supposed to work from back to front and from large to small whenever you paint something. And that helps you get things right. You know, you get the broad strokes in and then you kind of refine and you make it better. And I find this fairly easy with software because paradoxically, the big things are small and the small things are big. When you build a program, you start off by going, okay, so the program is supposed to do three things. Thing number one, it is supposed to show you a picture. Thing number two, you are supposed to do a thing to the picture. Thing number three, you save the picture. And thing number four, you exit the program. That's all the program does. You may loop back and load another picture. Yeah, sure, whatever the fuck, you know? But you can sit there, you can start your main function. You can say, load picture, do shit to picture, save picture, exit program. Those can be your four things. Those can be the four things that you do, and you can just write the names of those functions, even if you don't know what they do. You don't know how to load a picture? No problem. You just write load picture, and you make it a function call. You could go and write that function later. You don't have to worry about it right now. Similarly, do shit to picture. You don't even need to know what the shit is. You just make it a function call. You put an empty function over there, and you're like, this is where we'll put the shit that you do to the picture. That's all there is to it. So your initial code is just like 4 lines. It's just load picture, do shit to picture, save picture, exit program. That's it. And over time, this expands, and it gets larger. Painting is the opposite. Painting, the big stuff is big. It's not small, it's big. And you paint the big thing, and then you gotta go the small thing and the small thing and the small thing. Whereas in programming, you write the big thing, and you go, it's just a thing. And then you write more detail, and more detail, and more detail. And as you have more detail, it gets bigger. And I don't know if that's related to the issues that I'm having, but it is a thing that I kind of noticed, which is that big things in painting are like actually big, where in programming, the big things are small. The big thing's over here, and you go, I don't want to work on that right now, and do a small thing. That's your broad stroke. Your broad stroke is just to say big thing that I will define later. And then you define it later, and there's all of this detail in it, and it's big. Broad stroke, fine detail. Painting's the opposite. Broad stroke, fine detail. So there's a lot of mindset stuff that I've got to do. There's a lot of thinking that I have to do about how do I get used to this concept? How do I get used to this idea? And ain't nothing to it but to do it. You got to practice. You got to figure out what it is that you need to do, and you got to find a way to do it, and you got to practice it. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to jump over here into my Clip Studio Paint, and as you can see, I have a picture of Huang Le. Because I'm a simp. But look at her. She's gorgeous. Look at her. Just look at her. Okay, look at her. Yep, that's a beautiful woman. She's not real. She doesn't exist. I know she's not real and doesn't exist. This doesn't bother me. What bothers me is, just to go off on a little tangent, what bothers me is when people assert a relationship with, or even worse, ownership of a person that isn't real or doesn't exist, without regard to who that person is. Obviously, I assert no ownership of Huang Le. I assert no relationship with her because fundamentally I think if my Starborn character were to walk up to Huang Le in the underbelly of Neon and go, I'm hopelessly in love with you. Come away with me, and I will give you a wonderful place to live. You can stay with me forever. I think she'd go, no, that's okay, Chief. I like that. I want to do this myself. I want to earn what I have on my own merits. Well, fair fucking play. I respect that. I think that's who she is. I think that's what she wants to do. For God's sake, she's writing spreadsheets on napkins with fucking chunks of special sauce. This is a girl who wants to make her own way. She wants to do it herself, you know? Fuck yeah, you go, girl. Girl boss your way through life. That's fucking fantastic. I'm still sad. Because, you know, she should come and live on my spaceship and be my dirty space whore. But if she don't wanna, she don't wanna. I will drop by Neon every so often and give her a few credits and take some portraits of her and stick them in my photo gallery, and she'll go, that guy's kind of creepy. I can't put my finger on it, but there's something off. He's always taking pictures of me. It's kind of fucked up. But anyway, here's my picture of Huang Le, and I got to thinking, if I blur this, if I blur it by just like 3 1/8 pixels, it doesn't do a whole lot. But if I blur it by 6 1/4, 6 exactly is the default, you'll understand why I'm doing these partials in a minute. If I blur it by 6, well, now some of that detail falls away. If I blur it by 12.5, now a lot of the detail is falling away. So because a lot of the detail is falling away, I can really kind of focus on these specific areas of color, okay? And if I add a new layer here, let me grab my glove. All right, I haven't been doing any actual drawing today. I just been kind of working in the program, so I do have to clean my screen. This used to be my ritual. Every time I started a showing up stream, is I would clean my screen. So the screen was always clean all the time. It was part of the ritual, and having rituals is important. You want to have rituals so you can do stuff effectively. So anyway, now that we've kind of dropped this down, you can see sort of the broad strokes. You can see here, you can see sort of here is the outline of the face. Here's the outline of the lips. It's the line of the mouth, outline of the eyes. And these things become more evident as they blur out. You can see there's kind of this shape here. You could see that there's an area of color right there and another area of color right there. And you can start to see these bits and pieces. And now, of course, we have a portrait of Michael Jackson. But as you drop this down further, if we drop it down to a blur of 25, now we start to see even more clearly. We've got these patterns. We've got these patterns that exist, and these patterns start to fade out. These aren't as big. The outline of the face is still fairly large, but you see the other things just sort of start to fade into the distance. And if we take it up to a blur of 50, now even that sort of starts to disappear. We just have these vague sort of notions. We've got sort of a blotch over here, but over here we got nothing. We just got sort of the shape of the face. And as this becomes more blurred out and more iconic, you can focus more on that sort of shape language. Like, here's the hair, okay? Here's the shape of her outfit. Here's the shape of that hair. Here's like the shadow in here. You can't even see where the eyes and the nose and everything are, okay? Everything is kind of faded into irrelevance. Now, when you go to 200, which is the maximum, that's nothing. You can't get anything out of that. But at 100, you get kind of these large areas. At 50, it starts to become more clear. At 25 and 12 and 6 and 3, if you just kind of drop it down bit by bit all the way until you get to the original, I think this is the process. This is the process that I need to go through, starting with the very large, broad strokes, and then moving up just kind of bit by bit, step by step, adding a little more detail each time until eventually it becomes recognizable and then more detailed. And then you get back to the clean, crisp, high detail original. Now, obviously, the next question I have in my mind is, well, I want to be able to do this to lots of different pictures because I have a problem. Okay, so here's the latest picture I took of Huangde. So let's open this one up. Let's open this up, and what we want to do is we want to create an easy way to get all those blur layers together. So I'm going to come over here to my Auto Actions tab, okay? And I'm going to create a brand new auto action that I'm going to call Add Blur Layers. Now this is designed to start from any layer and to create all of these blur layers. Creating auto actions in Clip Studio Paint is fairly simple. It's not all that difficult. You just have to know exactly what you're doing and not fuck it up. Sorry, don't mean to put too much pressure on you. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to select Duplicate Layer. And we're going to double click that layer and we're going to name it Blur 200. We're going to come up to Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur, and we're going to jack it up to 200. There we go. There's a 200 blur. You can't see it because it's underneath the original layer. So we just have faith. We duplicate the layer, we double click it, and we call it Blur 100. Now we come up to Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur, and we go 100. Okay. Again, we right-click the original layer, we pick Duplicate Layer. The layer is created underneath of the current layer and on top of previous layers. So we're going to rename that blur 50. I come up to filter, blur, Gaussian blur. We're going to type 50. OK. Again, duplicate layer. Blur 25. Filter, blur, Gaussian blur, 25. Just a couple more to go. We hit it, we go duplicate. Blur 12.5, because it's half of the previous. Filter, blur, Gaussian blur, 12.5. Boom. Now we just do this 2 more times, duplicate layer. Blur 6.25. You don't have to do blur 6.25. You could just do a blur of 6, but I have problems. And now we do the final duplicate layer. Blur 3.125. Filter, blur, Gaussian blur, 3.125. Now we do that because a blur of 1 or 2 pixels really doesn't matter. And now finally, we do the original. We rename the last layer original. And having done that, we go over to our auto action and we click stop. Click. Now, as you look down this, you'll see that it's recorded everything that you did. Is duplicate layer, change editing layer, change layer name, Gaussian blur. Change editing layer, duplicate layer, change editing layer, change layer name, Gaussian blur. And it goes on and on and on like this. And it just keeps going all the way down until the final change layer name. Okay? And that's fairly simple. And now that we're done and we've stopped it, we now have an add blur layers action. So if you come over here, you can see that I've got the blur 3.125, and we can go down the blur settings one by one, and you can see the blur increase. Actually, let's come up to view and we'll go fit to navigator. Turn off fit to navigator now because we've already zoomed in on it. There's our blur 3. Here's our blur 6, 12, 25, 50, 100, and 200. So we've got all of that, and it was fairly simple to do, and it didn't take that long, but now we have an additional option, and that additional option is I can whack open, and I can say, okay, let's work from this one. Let's say this picture right. That would be a good one. They'd all be good ones. What am I talking about? So we'll start from this one. I use the thumbnails because they're smaller and because it's easier. Now I come over here to my auto actions. I just go add blur layers. Here's the play button. And I just go boom. If I come back over here, it's fucked up. Why the hell did it fuck up? I hate it when that happens. Blur 6 should be at the top. But it's like, it's all of them. So that's my original. Huh. Something's fucked up. I don't know exactly what's fucked up. Let me go. Do not save. Let's check this again. Let's go into our auto action. Let's open this up. We got some debugging. Holy shit. Change editing layer. Layered name photo. Ooh. Okay, it's navigating by the layer names. Okay, so because it's okay, so that's terrible. Okay, we're going to close that. We're going to do not save that, and we're going to open File, Open. Let's grab, which one were we using? Doesn't matter. We'll grab another one. We'll grab this one. Okay, so we are now going to create, we're going to try this again. We're going to go Add Auto Action, Add Blur Layers. Now, at this point, we're going to do this perfectly. We're going to hit record, and we're going to go rename layer, original. Actually, we're going to rename it Blur 200. Then we're going to duplicate the layer, and we're going to take the Blur 200, and we're going to Gaussian blur that at 200. 200, okay. Now we're going to select Blur 200 copy, and we're going to duplicate layer. That creates us another Blur 200 copy. We're going to rename that Blur 100. Filter, blur, Gaussian blur, 100. All right, there we go. Blur 200 copy 2, duplicate. And we're going to go Blur 50. Filter, blur, Gaussian blur, 50. All right. Blur 200 copy, duplicate layer. Blur 200 copy and Blur 200 copy 2. We're going to go blur 25. Filter, blur, Gaussian blur, 25. Okay. And this is just the same thing that we've already done. I'm just duplicate layer, blur 12.5. Blur 12.5, sorry. Blur, Gaussian blur, 12.5. Blur 200 copy, duplicate layer. That's going to be blur 6.25. Filter, blur, Gaussian blur. And now, last one. I keep thinking I can right-click on it to do the blur, and I can't. There we go, 3.125. Now we rename Blur 200 copy, original, and there we go. Okay, that should fix the problem. And now we should come in here and we should click stop. Now we've got, we should have, there's a change layer name, delete command. You can delete individual commands out of the auto action, which is useful because sometimes you fuck up. So now we've got an add blur layers action, and we've just tested it out. Now let's open a new picture, like I don't know, how about this one right over here? We'll grab this one and we'll go add blur layers. And we'll click over. I'll see what we got. Original 320. There we go. The debugging has proved fruitful. There we are. So now we have an easy way to produce that. And now having an easy way to produce that, we have something that we can use, because what I can do at this point is I could select all of these layers right here. I can go Control C, And I can come over here to an illustration, and I can go into my reference, and I can go, new layer folder. We'll put that, actually, we'll just call this reference 2. And now into this folder, I can paste all of those little thingies, and I can click on the reference 2 folder. I can bring up my move layer command, and I can move it over, and since it's on top, it will show up on top of the existing reference layer. So I'll move it on over here all the way to the corner of the canvas. And now that we've done that, we can press Control T for transform. Would you look at that? Now I can make it the exact, or at least a very similar size. Now I can make it the same size as the existing reference, and I can go OK. And I'm still on Move Layer, so now I can just move it down. And move it down over here, and once we've got it moved down to the point that we want it, ooh. How'd that? Perfect. Exactly. We get them exactly next to each other, and then we move them down just a couple bits. There we are. Now, here we have our two pieces of reference, and we can bring those down to the level of blur that we want. We can take it down to blur 100. We can take it down to blur 200. Blur 200 is worthless, except as a basic value study. But the whole thing here is that because we can take it down to that level, we can get an understanding. We can start to develop that visual library of what this looks like and how to duplicate that and how to think about these things from a standpoint of large to small. Like if we come all the way up here and we go, okay, here's the original copy. If I jump into my flat color and I pull up the, I bring up a brush, okay? If I go to my flat color layer and I pull up a brush, now I can look at this and I can go, there is, over here on the side, a basically black area. So I can use a fairly large brush and I can go, yeah, that's a big black area right there, except it's not really black, is it? It's really more of a very, very dark sort of teal, a little bit more greenish. Something more like that. A little darker. Yeah, so we can kind of get that space roughed in right there. And then we can go, all right, and there's this brown. There's this brown color right here. Darker. Brighter. Quite that. Redder, warmer. A little brighter. Wow. There we are. That looks about right. And then we got actual black from a shadow. Right there. And we got some yellow. We got something around this area here. You know, something around that area there, and then we've got a kind of a gray. Brighter than that. something more like that. And then again, actual black. And that actual black kind of forms this shadow that comes up around here. But more importantly, by dropping this down to blurred levels, we can get a clearer picture of what the broad strokes are. And you can see right here that this gray right here, that needs to be more of that shape. And this yellow kind of there, and there's a bit more of a curve on the top of that. And by using this approach, you can get that kind of large to small notion. Like over here, we can go, okay, so her outfit, I always think of Huang Le's outfit as being yellow, but it's really more orange. So you got kind of the arm here, and you've got the hood here, and the other arm right here. Then you've got this sort of washed out blue, kind of a stonewash blue, right? Darker. I am also trying to work on my color sense, so I don't want to color pick off of the reference. And then you got this kind of bright yellow here. That stripe down the middle. And that stripe down the middle is right there. Then you've got a shadow, and because you've got a shadow, it's like pure black. There's shadow there, shadow here. You got kind of, here's her hair, swinging up and around the face. And here's this same kind of a bit bluer, a bit more saturated, and a bit brighter. Then you've got kind of, here's the knee, kind of coming up, and there's that shadow right in there. We need a skin tone. We need something in the very light orange range, not that light. More like that, yeah. And this, I think, is going to be helpful in terms of doing studies and thinking about the actual light colors of what I see. And then you can go from this, you can come up and you can go at a 25 blur and you can say, okay, now I can see this kind of, let's drop that down a little and I can see this sort of. There's this sort of little area, and now you can kind of see the mouth, and you can see there's this sort of shadow going on here and here, another shadow. There's the shadow of everything going into the hood. And obviously I'm doing a shit job here, but at the same time, primary focus is to sort of begin to see these patterns, begin to see kind of the, let's work with a kind of airbrushy here. kind of layer that in. And there's sort of a highlight going on here. There's a shadow here, but there's also there's a highlight coming in right here. But anyway, I feel like that's going to be a useful process, a useful practice to get in here and figure out how to do this back to front, large to small sort of thing. And I'm not doing a very good job here because I'm rushing and I'm trying to get this stuff into the video. But I feel like that is going to make for some useful practice. And maybe that's going to help somebody. Maybe somebody's going to look at that and go, oh shit, that's a good idea. I should do that. And then maybe they'll get better much faster than I do because that's how it always works because I'm fucking old. There's this notion of fluid intelligence and crystallized intelligence, and I have always kind of railed against it and gone, no, it's not your fluid intelligence. You always have fluid intelligence, and I don't know. Maybe it really is like a physical alteration in the way that your brain works. Maybe there really is a point in your life where you are no longer capable of learning the same way that you used to. I think you're always capable of learning, but I think it gets harder as you get older, and more importantly, as you are not doing it. And the question is, I have this gut sense that your crystalline intelligence is crystalline because you don't fuck with it. And if you start fucking with it, I think you can break that kind of, to continue to overextend the metaphor. I think you can break that crystalline lattice and you can make that crystalline intelligence fluid again. And I think that's a noble goal, and I think you should work toward it. And I'm certainly working toward it, and I'm certainly trying to do it. But, you know, here we are, like, we're about to begin the 4th season of what used to be Sketch Weekly. For the first 2 years, this show was called Sketch Weekly, Weakly. And I did get a fair number of people telling me, you spelled it wrong. Now, have you watched the show? Because trust me, I spelled it right. And then I changed it to showing up because it wasn't as much sketching, and because there was other stuff being in it. You know, there was more stuff going into it than just art. So I felt like changing it to be something that reflected it was more than just art. It's me showing up. And then in the 4th year, I added Old Man Yapping on Wednesdays and now Thursdays, because I do everything in the wee hours of the morning. And there's a bunch of changes coming down the pike. A whole bunch of changes. And the first and most important one is that we're going to be renaming everything, and we're going to be shuffling everything around. If you read my Substack, which literally nobody does, you think my subscriber count is anemic here, you should see it on Substack. It's like the square root of what I have here. But anyway, what I'm working on in terms of the improvements to the show and to the channel is, right now on my Substack, I have changed from posting every Monday on my Substack to posting every Sunday on my Substack. Because I'm going to change from posting every Sunday on the channel to posting every Monday on the channel. And that's going to happen in a couple of weeks. In a couple of weeks, I'm going to, at the beginning of September, I'm going to begin posting the showing up video on Monday instead of Sunday. And after about a month of that, when we get to October, I'm going to start really kind of buckling in on putting the Old Man Yapping video on Wednesday instead of Thursday. Old Man Yapping is going to, it's going to change. Because previously it was just, I need to do another video every week. Well, I've done another video every week for an entire fucking year, and I haven't missed a week. So we're doing good. 2 videos a week for an entire year. Awesome. Now we're going to focus that video on something. And what we're going to focus it on is audio. We're going to focus the Old Man Yapping video on audio, and we're going to call it Tuning In. So there's going to be showing up, and there's going to be tuning in. At the end of October, we're going to add a 3rd video. Now, when I say we're going to change the Old Man Yapping to Tuning In, it's not changing until November. It's just going to be Old Man Yapping through October. But in November, it becomes Tuning In. And I'm adding a 3rd video. And the 3rd video is going to be building out, and that's going to be focused on code. Because the raw fact is this. I started doing Sketch Weekly to make myself practice my art once a week. And I continued doing Sketch Weekly to make me practice something. And that's what showing up was. Showing up was I show up and I practice some part of my stuff that I do every single Sunday morning. Every Saturday night and Sunday morning, that is. And I've done that. I've done that for almost 4 years now. But I want to focus that. So showing up is going to be visual art. It's going to be graphics. Tuning in is going to be audio. It's going to be focused on music and sound effects and sound design. I've got a lot of stuff to talk about there that I really don't talk about. So what I'm really trying to focus in on here is I want to start offering more value to the people that come to this channel. I want to have more than just, hey, here I am talking shit about the latest thing that I was fucking thinking about, which is what Old Man Yapping always was, and it's what showing up has kind of turned into. But I need to focus in on that. I need to focus in, and I need to get more value into these videos for the viewer, because I don't give a flying fuck and a rolling donut about ad-friendly, and I don't care about sponsorships, and I don't care about being monetized, and I don't care about paid subscribers or any of that shit. None of that actually matters to me. What matters to me is I want you to know what you're getting and when you're getting it. So, god damn it, my eye is really bugging me. What I want is for you to look at the title of the video, and I want you to see showing up and go, oh, that's the graphics video. And I want you to read the rest of the title and go, that's a topic about graphics that I care about and that I would like to know more about. And then you click on it, and that's what you fucking get. It is what it says on the tin. The way it is now, I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about until I start the video, and I don't know what I'm going to call it until I get around to writing the description and all of that. I don't pay any attention to it. I literally just kind of pull the description and the tags out of my arse, and I have no real plan. I have no real goal or intention with any of this stuff that I'm doing, and I want to change that. Not so much because I think it's going to improve stuff for me, but because I think it's going to improve stuff for you. I think it's going to improve stuff for the viewer. I want you to look at the title and go, yes, that's a thing that I care about. I want you to see the title of the show. I want you to see showing up and go, that's graphics. I care about graphics. And you read the rest of the title and go, that's interesting. I want to know about that. I want you to see tuning in and go, that's about audio. I care about audio. And then read the rest of the title and go, I care about that. I want to watch that. I want you to see building out and go, that's about code. I want to watch that. And I think that's going to be much more useful to you, just like the Substack is going to turn into, in November, the Substack is going to start being, hey, this is what's going to happen over the course of the next week. Okay, this is what's going to be on showing up, and this is what's going to be on tuning in, and this is what's going to be on building out. And here are last week's episodes. Bam, bam, bam. And that's going to be like a quick and easy roll up, and I think that's going to help drive people from the Substack over to the YouTube channel. And I think people from the YouTube channel who are like, you know what, this channel's kind of spotty, and I don't know if I really want to stay subscribed to it. You can go subscribe to the Substack. An email will show up once a week on Sunday, and it'll go, hey, here's what happened last week, and you go, I don't fucking care, and not watch any of the videos. And it'll say, here's what's going to happen next week. And you can go, ooh, maybe I'll care about that, and I'll watch that. And you can just wait for the next week's email and watch the videos. I want the people who are subscribed to this channel to be people who care about the content on the channel. And when I say content, I don't mean I want you to care about the things that I am talking about and teaching and learning and studying and practicing on this channel. I want you to subscribe to this channel because you care about graphics and about sound and about code and just about game design in general. I want this to be more specifically about game development and design. And I also want to make more public progress on the game that I'm building, which right now, I had some ideas and I wanted to implement them, and I wrote really, really shitty code to get those things into the game. And they're in the game and they work and everything's fine, but the code is fucked up. It's not as extensible, it's not as reusable, it's not as modular, it doesn't exemplify the ideals that I have for code when I'm writing a game. And I have just been I've been avoiding looking at it because that's what developers do. We write some bad code and we know it's bad code. We're like, that code's it's so bad, it smells. I don't want to look at it. We talk about code smell for exactly that reason. It's like if something stinks, you walk away from it. You don't even think about it after a while. You're like, oh, that thing over there stinks. I'm going to take a route that goes around it. And even if it stops stinking, you continue to avoid it. And that tends to cause people. When we talk about a code smell, what we mean is this particular area of the code, nobody wants to look at it. And nobody wants to work with it. And nobody wants to do anything around it. It's like they try not to use it if at all possible. And if they do use it, they're like holding their nose and going, okay, I'll use it. And nobody wants to look at it. Nobody wants to debug it. Nobody wants to test it. Nobody wants to deal with it. And this is counterproductive because when you have something like that in your code, that part of your code is fucked up. And you need to go in and look at it. It's important for you to go in and look at it. And the thing I've done to make myself go and deal with code smells is, if the code smells, you're not allowed to do anything until you deal with the smell. So I haven't been doing anything because I don't want to deal with the smell. It's not even that bad of a smell. I just feel guilty for he who smelt it dealt it. And I'm just like, oh man, I let a big one over here. I don't want to hang around next to it. You're like a dog. I don't know if you've ever noticed. Yeah, people always try to blame their farts on the dog. If a dog lets a really smelly fart, it will usually leave the room. It'll go, oh, it stinks over here. Never mind. Some dogs are dumb. They don't even know it was their fart. They're like, who did that? Oh, that's gross. Fuck you. Cats know. If a dog farts and a cat's in the room, the cat will smack the dog. I see that with our cats and our dog. Yeah. Our dog. It's my mother's dog. She wanted the dog. And she's like, look, see, you both love the dog. It's not the dog's fault. You're a fucking idiot and you got a dog we don't need. It's not the dog's fault. We're not going to punish the dog for being a fucking dog. Plus, it's a dog. How do you not love a dog? Is that even a thing? How do you even do that? How is it possible to have a dog and not love the dog? It's a dog. It's the rules. You have to love the dog. The dog's cute. But See, this was smart. I had a plan for today. I had a plan for today, and I went, ooh, I'm going to talk about this specific thing, and now I'm fucking hammered. I can't talk about anything coherently. But I already did the, like, useful part of the show, so it's fine. I already did a useful thing. I showed you how to do an auto action. I showed you how to debug an auto action, how to go through and figure out what the fuck is going on. Did I explain that well? I think I did. Is this the one that was all fucked up? No, this is the one where I did it right. Yeah, you may notice that as I was selecting the thumbnails to do this from, yeah. I'm sorry, what was I saying? Oh yeah, you may have noticed that as I was selecting these, I was selecting the thumbnails and not the full-sized ones. And that's because when you select the Gaussian blur in Clip Studio Paint, the Gaussian blur in Clip Studio Paint only goes up to 200. You can't take it any higher than that because it's computationally prohibitive. It just takes too long to process. Like if you load up, here, let me show you. If you load up a full 4K picture, like here's a thumbnail right here, okay? If I go to Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur, and I take it to 200, okay? I go, okay, there we go. But if I open the same picture in 4K and I go Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur, 200, it has to think. It has to work. You see how slow it goes across. And then on top of that, if I come over here and I go View, Fit to Navigator, and then I turn that back off, okay? Because it's a radius, because Gaussian blur works over a radius, the blur works much more strongly on a smaller picture. When I go back to the 4K picture, the blur is not going to be as strong. It's not going to be anywhere near as strong. In fact, it's going to look, if we hit Control-Z right here, it's going to look basically the same as it would look if I did a Gaussian blur of 50. See, there's a blur of 50, and here's the blur on a 4K picture. See how it looks the same? It looks almost exactly the same. In fact, I think it is like fucking identical. But the reason it looks exactly the same is because the thumbnail, if you go and you look at the resolution, this is 960 by 540, okay? Whereas over here, this is 3840 by 2160. This is 4 times the dimension. It's 16 times the size because it's 4 times each dimension. But because of that, the radius has to be 4 times as large to get the same results, okay? So if you want to go to, if you want to do a Gaussian blur of 100, okay? If you want that result, on a 4K picture, you can't get that. You can't go that far. And I've found 100 works really well and 200 doesn't work very well, okay? But on a 4K image, you really can't go farther than a 50. Anyway, there's a solution to this, and that solution is when you open your image, do not save. When you open your image, open the full-size image, you go to your edit, change image resolution, okay? And you can actually change this to smaller than 960 if you want better results. Like if you wanted a 400 Gaussian blur, if you change it to a width of 480, okay? Then once that's resized, if you take that, and we're going to jump in here and we're going to go Fit to Navigator. And we should also open the thumbnail so we have that available. Now you can see from the thumbnail, and we'll go View, Fit to Navigator. Wow, that's a per image thing. That's really cool. They have really done a good job on that in Clip Studio Paint. And you can see these are effectively indistinguishable, okay, even though this one is much lower resolution. But if you take this one down, if you filter with a Gaussian blur down to 200, you get this result, okay? Whereas if you filter down to 200 on this one, you get complete fucking garbage. It's like absolutely useless. You can't see anything here. It's ridiculous how blurred this is. Now you may want to experiment with different kinds of blur, but more importantly, it's just a question of what it is that you want to accomplish. So what I've found is working from a thumbnail, going down to 200, okay? If you go all the way down to 200, then it's not very useful. But if you go down to 100, it works fine. The problem is that in a full screen picture, you can only do blur 50. Now, what I could do is I could load up the 4K image and I could resample it to half size and I could take it down to 200, which would look like this. If I go, if I pull this up, let's pull both of these up again. If I pull both of these up and I've got the full size here and I come over here and I go fit to navigator, fit to navigator. Now, if I've got these two pictures right here, which are almost indistinguishable, I can take this one down. If I take this one right here down to half resolution, if I go, it's under edit. Yeah, you could tell I've been drinking. Scale 0.5. This is a shitty scale. It's a dimensional scale, not a it's a dimensional scale, not an area scale, and that really frustrates me. And we're going to go, okay, 1920 by 1080. We're going to resize that. And then we're going to, once again, fit to navigator, unfit to navigator. And now you can see, once again, you know, they're just fine, okay? But this one, if we take this down to filter, blur, Gaussian blur, if we take this down to 200, there we have it. And it's going to look the same as if we filter, blur, Gaussian blur this one down to 100. And you can see they're basically the same. But I have that extra step of resizing. Why should I do the extra step of resizing when I can just filter this one down to 100? Using the thumbnail is actually saving me some time. So that's why I do that. And yeah, I really do take a lot of pictures of Wang Le. It's like, factually, from a pure game perspective, Wang Le can never be mine because the game doesn't allow it. But even if the game did allow it, she would still never be mine. She doesn't want a rich starborn to come down into the underbelly of Neon and sweep her off her feet and take her away. That's not what she wants. That's not who she is. She wants to do it herself. And I wrestle with that because I want a worthwhile fantasy. I want a worthwhile notion of what could I do and what could I say to make Wang Le come and like live with me on my spacecraft. I could give her a job, I suppose. One of the things I've been toying with is I'm a senior operative at Ryujin. I could talk to Imogene Salzo and go, hey, I think Wang Le would make a good fit for a management training program. And I could whine and complain and convince Jeannie to, excuse me, Imogene. I'm not allowed to call her Jeannie. She's made that very clear. But I could convince her to let Huang Le into the management training program. And I could give her a taste for the finer things in life. But we all know Huang Le is not going to be a good manager. She'd be a good record keeper. She'd be a good accountant. But she'd kind of, she would kind of fit in the same place as Lane Garza. When you first go into Ryujin, Lane is the guy sitting at the desk. I always talk to Lane because he's cute and he's adorable and he's just such an appealing little twink. He really is. It's like, if I could get Lane and Huang Le into the same room and there was enough alcohol involved, I think interesting things could happen. If I could get Lane and Huang involved in that, I think that could go well. Lane's cute. I like him. He's a sweet guy. He's a really nice guy, and he's not bad looking. But I guarantee you, I pride myself on having some intuition for these things. Lane is not packing heat, okay? He's just, there's nothing special going on down there, which, kind of a detractor for me, I'm sorry. I'm a size queen, I don't know what to tell you. But, I kind of feel like the best chance with Huang Le would come from enabling her to pursue her own goals and getting her to a point where she has her own shit that she's doing. Like, as a senior operative at Ryujin, I could probably talk Imogene into getting her into a management training program, and that would get her into the Ryujin Arms, which is the apartments. They would probably put her up in that while she is training. And then she wouldn't do well in the training because she's not much of a manager. She wouldn't be a good manager. You can tell she wouldn't be a good manager. Okay? It's just like she doesn't have the initiative that she needs to do the thing that she needs to do. Although, there's this thing she does say in conversation. I'm just going to be simping over Huang Le the rest of this video, so if that's not something you want to hear, you can bail at this point. But there's this thing she says. She says, I got this place next to the trawl store. Now, first of all, you have to know what trawl is. Trawl is, they take chasm bass and hunting shark whale, and they skin them, and they cut out all of the good meat, and they put it off to the side, and whatever's less, whatever they can't extract chasm bass oil from, whatever they can't cut apart and sell as meat, all of the bones and skin and internal organs and the trimmings and garbage, that all gets blended up into a paste and put in bags with a straw like a Capri Sun. That's trawl. But not like everything. There's certain stuff they won't put in trawl. There are things they don't put in trawl, and they're like, no, that can't go in anything, and they throw it away. So Huang Le mentions that she's got a good spot next to the trawl store. And she can't eat everything they throw away, but she can eat enough. And the first time she said that, I thought, well, they throw away a lot of shit. And it's like, she can eat. There's enough of this. There's enough for her to eat in what they throw away. And then there was a point where I realized that what she's actually saying is, most of what they throw away isn't fit to eat. Now, I've been homeless. I've already chased away everybody that doesn't want to hear this shit, so, fuck it. I've been homeless, and I've eaten out of the garbage. And there was a moment in my life, when I was digging in the trash and I pulled out a half-eaten chicken sandwich. And it was summer in DC. And a chicken sandwich has mayonnaise on it, and the mayonnaise was off, to put it mildly. And I don't like mayonnaise, so just like eating something with mayonnaise on it in the first place is just, that's gross to me. As a general rule, I will not eat something with mayonnaise on it. So if I'm hungry enough to eat something with mayonnaise on it, you're already talking like edge of starvation. And I'm eating something with spoiled mayonnaise on it. And it occurred to me, I get paid good money to put less disgusting things in my mouth. And that was a turning point in my life. That was the moment when I really said, what good are my values in this particular area? None at all. They were keeping me homeless. They were keeping me poor. And it was only a couple of months. It was really, it feels like longer because it feels like forever. It's just, when you are pressed into sex work, it feels like you're in it for a very long time because every single event seems interminable. I can't count the number of things that happened to me which would be called assault today. It comes with the territory. And I look at sex workers today and I see them going, no, you're not going to do that. I'm going to tell you no. If you have a problem with it, then you take it up with my friend. They all have friends. And I love that they're friends. There were guys who ran guys in the DuPont Circle area. There were guys that, they would take care of you. They would make sure that your clients were good clients. They would send people to you that were good people. Those guys who ran guys would take most of your money. Like almost all of your money. They would take all of your money if they could get away with it. I felt, when I watched My Own Private Idaho with Keanu Reeves and River Phoenix, I felt like they demystified a certain amount of what it is to be a male sex worker. But I also felt like they romanticized it to a degree. Probably the best indication, the best representation of what it was like was the scene with Udo Kier, where you got a guy who's got good money, and because he's got good money, and you can tell he's got good money, he invites you to his hotel room, where he does show tunes for you and musical dance routines and shows off for you. And the reason you're there is because you want some of his money. And he knows you want some of his money, and he's going to stretch it out and drag it out as long as possible, and he's going to try not to give you any money. And Keanu Reeves does exactly what you need to do, and this really, really fucking nailed it. You have to stomp on his bullshit musical dance theater routine and say, I'm here to make money. That was the best, and especially the part where he said, "Hey, I'm here to sell motorbikes." You always put it in obscure language, because you never know who's listening. You never know who's wearing a wire. You always go, I'm conducting a perfectly legitimate transaction, and God, I'm so turned on by this legitimate transaction we just made that I want to fuck you. We did not just make a transaction where I was going to fuck you for money. Oh, no. We just made an entirely separate transaction that made me happy enough to fuck you, which I did not promise or in any way communicate was the likely outcome of that transaction. That's not what was going on here. That's absolutely what was going on there. But, what was I getting at? Oh, yeah. One has been homeless for 6 years, and she's eating out of the garbage, and she's been confronted with shit she can't eat, and she's still not a whore. I admire her fortitude. That is not a level of integrity that I myself possess. If you make me hungry enough that I will eat out of the garbage, I will absolutely suck dick for money. I don't know how you could possibly not suck dick for money at that point. And there's a question of luck there, too. But what I was getting at with the guys who run guys thing, they send the good customers to the people that they're running. Oh, make sure you get good customers. But they get calls from bad customers, too. Guess where they send the bad customers? Guess where they send the guys that do things you said you don't want to do precisely because you said you don't want to do them, or that they're not a thing that you do. Guess where they send the guys who refuse to pay extra for the extra services that they claimed without communicating they were going to claim them. I just forget how Burt's Bees makes my lips stick to glass, and it doesn't feel pleasant. It's greasy and gross. I don't like that. Sex work is work. And depending on how you got into it, there are people who get into it different ways. If you get into it out of desperation because it's the only thing that you can do, this is the only thing you can think of to do, it's some nasty, disgusting, degrading work. But you get opportunities. I had an opportunity. I had a customer, and he said, "Man, I wish I could just keep you at my apartment complex and have you come over to my office whenever I wanted." And I said, "You have an apartment complex?" He said, "Yeah." "Do you have a vacancy? We could work something out." And what we worked out was, I got a very nice 3-bedroom apartment on North Shore Drive, which is a really good area of Vienna, Virginia. And I didn't have to sleep on the street in Northwest DC anymore. And all I had to do was come to the office when he called me on the phone. We did have an argument when I started going to school, and I said, you know, I go to school, I take classes, I have a schedule. And he was like, well, what's your schedule? When are you going to be here? And I wasn't there all of the times that he wished I would be here, so I had to pay him some money. And I couldn't live there for free. But I had to pay tuition anyway, so I was still out. I was still out on the streets on DuPont Circle. I feel like a lot of people disregard and disrespect sex workers because they think of sex work as a thing you're forced into and a thing you escape. And they are. Sex workers are forced into it a lot of the time, and they escape a lot of the time. But at the same time, there are people who are not, strictly speaking, forced into it. I wasn't forced into it. I made a decision. I made a voluntary, consensual decision that this is what I was going to do because I could make the most money doing that. And then a couple of very wonderful men, Bruce in particular. I know that's funny. A gay guy named Bruce. Yeah, who'd have thought? But Bruce didn't make it through the 80s. Well, it wasn't the 80s. It was already the 90s. I'm trying to find a diplomatic way to say Bruce didn't survive the first wave of HIV/AIDS. And Bruce is the guy who taught me. He said, you're not charging anywhere near enough. And you're not communicating what you do and don't do clearly enough. Bruce taught me so much about boundaries and about value and about recognizing that I was not trash because I would suck a dick for money. I was somebody who sucked dick really, really well. And I deserved to be paid a premium for my services. And those services were valuable. And I could withhold those services at my discretion. Bruce taught me to be a sex worker and not just a bottom bitch. He taught me to regard myself as someone with a valuable skill that was good at that skill. And I learned from that becoming good at any skill, no matter what it is, if you know how to suck a dick, you can make fucking money. As long as you're willing to make money sucking dick. And that is a valuable thing to learn in your life. And I used the money. I sucked dick to make money so I could put myself through tech school. I went to Computer Learning Center of Alexandria. I put myself through school and I got a little certificate that said, I know how to fucking code. And that was a 30-year career. I wrote Dope Wars in the apartment that I was paying for by sucking my apartment manager's dick. And I have gotten to great places. And I have fallen to great depths. And I am in a reasonably deep hole right now where I need thousands of dollars to dig myself out of it. And I don't know how to get those thousands of dollars, but I'm going to get them. And I'm going to get them on my own power and under my own terms. Just like Huang Le. And I think that's very much why I love her. Is because she's relentlessly positive. And just, in the face of adversity, she does not back down. She does not avert her gaze. She stares at it head on, and she faces it, and she pushes to make her way. And I think the two things that are the most important to learn as a human being are, number one, face your adversity head on and push through it and make your own way. And at the same time, never be afraid or ashamed to ask for help or to accept the help or to do whatever horse shit you're expected to do to quote unquote earn that help. That's really, really important. That's the only way you'll ever get to do the things that you dream of. You have to face your adversity head on, and you have to accept whatever help people will give you. And you have to accept that there's a limit to that help. And when you hit the limit of that help, you stop asking. And you stop whining. You stop pissing and moaning about how you don't have the help that you need. You just push on. And you just blame the people who wouldn't give it to you. That I think you should do. When you needed help and somebody could help you and they didn't, I think you should call them out. I think when you needed $25 and your friend had $25 and he wouldn't give it to you, I think you could call him out and say, remember when I needed that $25 and you wouldn't give me the $25? Yeah, I do. I need to stop drinking. For tonight. Not like in general. I'm not going to stop drinking in general. Remember I said I have problems? I'm absolutely not going to stop drinking in general. I'm very concerned about the way corporate America is capitulating to the bullshit that is coming out of not only the Trump administration, but the collaborators with the Trump administration who are pushing for their own bullshit agenda alongside it. All pornography should be legal. Yes, even that. And right now it is. Under Title 17 of the United States Code, you can draw or paint that porn. Exactly the porn you're thinking of. That you're like, surely he doesn't mean that. That's exactly the porn I mean. You can draw that or paint that or write that. You can represent that in any way, provided you do not actually victimize another human being to create it. And you do not make it look like you victimized another human being to create it. It can't victimize another human being. It can't look like you victimized another human being. But you can still create that porn. You can create whatever horrible, awful, shitty porn you can think of. And there are two countries, two on the planet that are holding this line. They are the United States and Japan. That is it. And if the United States drops, the weebs own everything. Because we have accounts on the Japanese services. It doesn't matter whether somebody's jacking off to it, it's okay. A shocking number of the people looking at it are not jacking off to it. Oh my God, there's so much fucking porn that comes across my timeline every day. And I am not jacking off to it because it is not my thing. There is a huge, and I mean huge, market for people with tits and a dick. I'm not in that market. This doesn't do anything for me. I don't go, oh, fuck yeah, that's awesome. No. I like my men to be men and my women to be women. If you got tits, you should not have a dick. It's okay if you do. I don't mind. I'm not going to, call you names or anything. But please, for God's sake, go have sex with someone else. I don't want you to have tits and a dick. Tits are a detractor. I don't like tits. They're not great. If you didn't have any, that would be a bonus. But pussy is so good. I will accept tits to get pussy. Dick is okay, I guess. But you got tits and a dick. It's just a dick. I don't like dick that much. I'm sorry. It's just not that appealing. Pussy's that appealing. I'll put up with pussy to get some. I'll put up with tits to get some pussy. I will not put up with tits to get some dick, because I can get dick without pussy at the drop of a hat. This is a weird fucking video. I should probably stop this. If you're still here, the fuck is wrong with you? Actually, I think that applies I think that applied like an hour ago. Anyway, okay, bye.